Welcome to Actual People, a podcast hosted by me, Chauncey Zalkin, dedicated to meaningful conversations about the evolving landscape of our lives and the power of our own creativity and imagination to make magic. Today, you are going to get to hear an interview with Lori Mazor. Formerly an architect and educator, she got a jumpstart on the AI revolution when you and I were just using it to make people with funny hands. She's now educated over 3,000 business leaders on the applications of generative AI. She has a newsletter that is really thoughtful and engaging called Humans of AI, and a company and book in the works. Lori, let's start and really get into it. You are a beacon in this AI conversation that people can hold on to. You also make it really intellectual, which is my jam, and you make it fun. I just want to say that to you. That's how I feel about it. You come from architecture and design, and you're bringing that creative problem solving to the work. Why don't we take it back to where you first started doing this?
Yeah, I had been leading the City University of New York Hunter College during the pandemic, and I had teams that were physically on campus. It was really just a very natural extension for me to start learning the new tools that were becoming available. I started playing with generative AI. The image applications were the first ones to come out, and around April of 2022, I started discovering them in the summer of 2022. I got a little bit of a head start. By the time ChatGPT came out, I'd already figured out how to communicate with a machine. I'd figured out what it meant to use natural language instead of code. I started to understand how these systems, which I call chaos machines that are trained on vast amounts of data, operate, and how they're quite different from any of the other kind of binary technologies that we'd been using before, where it's zeros and ones, it's A or B. Even predictive analytics are all a series of binary choices that lead you to anticipate what someone might like in the future based upon past behaviors. But generative AI was very different. I fell in love with the curiosity about it. And I just really wanted to learn more. And the way that I learn is just by experimenting. And then everything just took off in 2023.
You're very creative. As a creative person, a lot of other creative people are afraid, period, of AI for many, many reasons. How do you make sense of it?
One of the things that I've been trying to communicate, and really why I encourage people to use image generators, is that a lot of art requires you to have skills that take you a long time to hone. Learning to draw or to paint, it takes a long time, and you might have an aptitude or not, you might get turned off. But with image generators, your skill is language. And so for anybody, and especially mid to late career professionals who have experience with communicating on a regular basis to get work done, these are the folks who are in the best position to be able to communicate with a machine. You're used to having to delegate tasks to someone and give feedback and curate. Those are all the skills that we use with AI. It's coming up with an idea, which is wholly a human thing. When I sit down and I want to generate an image, I'm starting with a blank page. What do I want to do? For what purpose? How am I going to use it? And then I start to think, okay, today, and I'll give you an example just to ground it in reality. Yesterday, I put out my newsletter, and my newsletter was on a rule structure of prohibitions, which are those things that prompt us to want to break the rules. No smoking, no dancing. We have a natural inclination. It's called reactance, psychological reactance, when we hear those kinds of things. So I wanted to come up with a series of images that had signs. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to do it in graffiti? And then to have a person in the image doing the thing that's being banned. So I put together a prompt like that. I developed one image around no smoking, and then I had a style. And I could then use that style to then create variations on a theme. I created another series of images, and you can see them in my newsletter, and they're photographic looking. There are people who look human in them. It was generated with AI, yes, but AI didn't come up with the idea to do a series on prohibitions. The idea always has to start with human, and then the curation of those images, the selection of the words, those are all things that I, the human, have control over. I see this in the long trajectory of history. It's not weird to me. It just feels very normal.
What comes to mind is collage. It's another evolution of postmodernism, of taking all these different things that
Correct.
are they're no longer isolated. Like Andy Warhol, it was this iconic Campbell soup can, but you knew it as a holistic thing that was then next to another thing, or had
Mm-hmm.
layers, like the faces with Andy Warhol, like Marilyn Monroe, and it was like
Yeah,
the photograph and the other. Now these things are so merged that it is a whole other thing altogether.
absolutely. I think what you want is you don't want there to be limiters.
It's this iterative process. You don't know exactly what you're trying to say, and you play until you get there. But it is
Yeah.
great to have tools to make this better. And also, it's more than the sum of all of its parts, because an imagery or whatever comes out of it might spark another idea, which is how paint works or clay or anything else.
Did you see the Grammys?
I
Taylor
didn't.
Swift, she gave her speech after winning her second Grammy. She said, I'm really excited about this, but I get just as excited when I finish the lyrics to a song. If you enjoy creating with you with words and me with images, it's the delight when it all comes together. And it doesn't all just come together. It's a
Oh,
process. And step by step, you get there. You know it when you see it. When it's time to put down the pencil, you know when that moment is there. That's true whatever you're crafting. So I just love that now language, which is the thing personally that I've probably had the most experience with, and I think you as
yeah.
well. I love that language is now something that we can use to create just a myriad of different.
I actually have I have a dictionary of color. It's my favorite book that I own. It's this big.
Mhm.
There are no colors in the book. It's all words that describe colors.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
I know.
And
I'll send you a
mine's
link to, I'll
like
put a link in the show notes too.
I think, one of the things that we all have to do when we are using images in any online documentation is we need to describe them for people who are visually impaired. And this is exactly what you're doing when you're creating a prompt. I tell people, even if you have no interest in creating images, but you are an empathetic human, you want to be able to use visual language. And visual language is not something that we train people to understand. If you're a photographer, you know exactly all the technical terms around how a camera works and what different shots are. But that's not something that most people who are taking pictures with their iPhone know about. I do something with everybody called sketching with words, which is taking a look at your environment and then not just your eyes, but using your five senses. Describe what you're seeing, feeling, hearing, tasting, touching, because visual is only one part of the description. Even when we look at an image, it has a flavor to it. It might have a feeling of warmth if you see a fire. So, really practicing pulling out that kind of evocative visual language.
Wow, I love that. A lot of people that you work with are in corporate leadership positions. They might
Yeah.
not necessarily work with images personally. How
Yeah.
do you work with them, and what are they asking of you that they want to do?
Yeah, well, there are many different applications of the technology. One of the technologies behind image generation is the flip side, computer vision, where computers can now read images. That has huge potential across all kinds of business units, from construction to supply chain to operations. Anybody who has imagery as part of their repertoire. And it could be vector line drawings of a floor plan, or it could be a picture. There's embedded data in
Right.
every visual image. Being able to read that very quickly by a machine is a huge time saver. I'm seeing that application of computer vision across the board. You can look at MRIs. There's a company called Ezra that's taken computer vision and sped up the ability to get a quick scan of your full body, amplify those images using inference, and then telling people whether they have cancer or not. Early signs of cancer.
You mean you don't see everything in the image?
In order to get like really clear images, you have to stay in the machine for a really long time. That would not be healthy to expose your body to that much radiation, but they are able to do it with a shorter scan and then using AI to literally fill in the blanks based upon having seen thousands and thousands and thousands, and building towards millions of images of what a healthy heart looks like and what
Oh,
a
wow.
cancerous heart looks like, same thing for your brain. I think those are some of the real world
So they're
applications here.
using data and
Yeah.
all the data that's available of that thing and comparing it to
Yes,
what they see,
exactly.
and they're able to predict what
Yeah.
the anomaly might be. Do you have more examples that are helping people who are looking to evolve their career?
Yeah. A lot of people who come to take my class are people who are in transition. They're looking for an edge. What I talk about with executives, and it could be anybody from a solopreneur to somebody who's in the C-suite in a Fortune 500 company. The technology is applicable at 3 levels. I think the first level is popular, but I think everyone dismisses it in terms of its application to a corporate environment. And I'm going to say ChatGPT is the cheapest, smartest investment that any company can make to improve individual employee productivity and creativity. You can complete, according to a Harvard study, 12% more tasks, 40% higher quality.
I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT for looking at what I've already written. You get too close to what your own work is. But I find that ChatGPT writes in this very flowery, annoying way.
So there are, yeah. And so I never say ChatGPT writes because no one should ever accept the first thing that comes out of ChatGPT. It really is about structuring an effective conversation. If you don't like flowery writing, you can always tell it to eliminate purple prose.
I
And you
saw
can
that in your newsletter.
yeah, you can put it in your custom instructions so that like every time you don't get that kind of stuff. I think it's really about infusing your own personality. I always write my own things first as well. Nobody can tell my stories. I don't like summarizing. It's like one of my least favorite things to do. I find it boring. So I will ask ChatGPT to summarize something. Then I might rewrite it. I might pick words that are more natural to me or phrasing that's more natural to me. But I've got kind of a structure there. So for me, it's really a very back and forth process, like you. And I think that many companies are underestimating the power of this technology to improve individual use because they're all looking for use cases, but the use cases are personal. You're going to use it in a different way than I'm going to use it. And I say, use it to do the things you don't like, use it to complement the things you're good at. Use it to do the
Absolutely,
things you
that's
don't
it.
like. Yeah, use it to
Yeah.
save time. Like yesterday, one of the things I've been working on for a while is calendaring because I don't have a personal assistant who's sitting there scheduling my day. And every morning I'm accountable to me. And yesterday I did it in 7 minutes.
What do you
So I
do?
like literally upload a picture of my calendar. That's the computer vision. And I ask it to extract the events that I have scheduled for the day and to block it out in 1 hour increments. Then I give it my to-do list and I ask it to help me schedule the things that are on my to-do list, recognizing where the locations are of my meetings and where I might not be at home. It'll say, better for you to do your writing in the morning, better for you to run this errand in between these two meetings.
Oh
We
my,
go back and forth and come up with a schedule for the day. Yesterday, I added in, write me the Python code to write this schedule to my calendar because I now have all of these new events and I would have had to manually put them in. And it wrote the Python code. I ran it in Google Colab and it popped like 5 new calendar items in 30
I have
seconds.
no idea how to do that second part. How would you get
Well,
the code to?
that's what I teach. And so
Wow.
really try and take people who have no technical background whatsoever from I know nothing, help me log on to these systems and pick a plan to I'm ready to learn the basics of Python so that I can use it in a very simple way. And that I also can start to teach myself how to do things that I may not know how to do. It's amazing if you use Excel, you probably use a fraction of the functions in Excel,
I
right?
I am not good at Excel. There's
Yeah,
certain
who's good at Excel? I mean, I know how to add a column of numbers, how to multiply things together,
yeah,
but
that's
like
it. Or
the functions,
some.
yeah, sum it. But if you want to do more complicated things, all you have to do is ask ChatGPT, like, give me the function. I want to do this with my numbers. Like, give me the function.
Sometimes it's hard to phrase what you want or even realize what you want.
Absolutely.
Even when you're searching on Google, I find it difficult to I'm
Hmm.
like, what am I I'm trying to there's something that I wanted to know that had to do with I know what I want. So
Yeah.
just as an example, I see that people have in their podcasts colorful backgrounds and animated things going on. They actually probably do it in Premiere Pro, but I just wanted to search. Google totally misinterpreted this as this
Yeah.
kind of background or, I mean, there's just many different misinterpretations. Nothing was right. Do people have that same question of, I don't know how to ask?
Yeah. And I also ask ChatGPT to help me figure out how to ask the question. So I basically just start off with the problem that I have. What's my problem? Like, I'm trying to do this. I'm observing these things that my friends are doing. Here's an example. If you have a picture of something that you like, here's an example of what I see. Do you know any applications that can help me achieve this? It might give you 4 or 5 different examples. And then you want to make sure that it's searching the internet for those. If it just gives you information from its knowledge base, it won't have a search query. So then you can say, could you just double check this with the internet? Use Bing to do a search.
Oh my God, I didn't know any
Give
of
me
this.
some citations or some references. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a wealth of information. Now I feel like I want to take your class. I can see where there's a lot of opportunity. If you are struggling, all these layoffs, people just trying to figure out their lives, what are
Yeah.
some things that people can do to use AI to help them with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like with anything, whether it's AI or whatever the new flavor of the day is, careers change. Nothing is ever static. Even if you're within a single company, your job evolves. Maybe taking the career break as an opportunity to invest in learning. Really be reading what's going on in the world. Really try and understand what the trends are that are happening within your industry. Where is your curiosity leading you? Maybe you're just bored out of your mind with what you've been doing and you want to be doing something else and you want to see how you can transfer those skills you've applied to one industry to another. You said it's really hard to ask the questions. I mean, I think that's exactly right. It's really hard to ask the questions, whether it's asking them to AI or whether it's asking them of yourself. But I think that's really the skill, is really learning how to ask the right questions to get you in the right place and to be able to communicate effectively. It's this career process of transition. I've watched a lot of people go through it. What I've seen is these interview processes take year, 2 years for people, especially when you're at a senior level, because those positions are few and far between, and finding the right one for you is really hard. Having constructive things that you can do during that period of time that can earn you money, that can support your lifestyle, and that can help you if you choose that you want to work for a corporation.
That's a really great answer. I made a big, not a pivot this year, but I decided to cut out the fat and not look for a fractional CMO role or wait for those roles that are senior leadership at a bigger company because I was honest with myself and I had a reckoning. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be CMO of a mid to large company. And so why am I trying so hard to do that when that's not
Yeah.
even me? I'm a storyteller. I love to write and I love to help people tell their story. So, as scary as that is and, ostensibly could be limiting, I decided I have to do it because life is short. I'm not going to try to do the whole marketing stack anymore. And
Yeah.
I'll let you know how that pans out because this podcast is a big part of that, just putting myself completely out there. So I even have that orientation. And still, for me, I don't know exactly how to go after clients that I really like, especially now that I'm more focused and don't want to do B2B SaaS, for example.
Yep. I've always tried to get paid for marketing. When you're an entrepreneur and you are a solopreneur, to spend hours and hours pitching clients and giving away your work for free, you can do that if you're a big company. When you are a solopreneur, you don't have that luxury. So I have built a pipeline where there are increments where I get to bring people in. I get to teach them. My executive boot camp is the first introduction to me. Everything I do to get people into that class is networking, going and meeting people in person, doing speaking engagements, sitting on panel conversations, doing podcasts, just being present so that people see me. I can keep those classes small and personalized. And people who have taken those classes have then invited me to come into their companies. Once I am in a company, I might do 1 hour. This is what AI is all about. And then they're like, oh, now we're starting to get used to this. We've gotten ChatGPT for our offices, but how do we actually figure out our use cases? So then I will like go in and help them with a use case scenario. And then some of them have gotten to the point where they're like, okay, now we really are ready to build something. Can you help us like work with the developers to write the code?
The people that you're working with who are like, "Oh, no, I don't know what to do in this new world,
Yeah.
and I want to evolve my career as a consultant." What do you say to them?
Well, I mean, look, I think a lot of the strategy is about being able to see through the noise and see where you can add something interesting to the conversation. So there are thousands of people. It's huge, huge topic. I'm riding the wave. Because of that, thousands of people out there are doing the same thing that I'm doing. And so I really focus on who am I as a person? What makes me unique? What do I have to offer that's easy for me, that's not easy for somebody else? I've decided that I kind of want to be the triathlete of AI. I'm not just a ChatGPT person. I'm not just an image generator. I don't teach creatives because there were plenty of people doing that. I am teaching executives, mostly 50 and over, how to get comfortable with technology that's going to help them level up and stay relevant in the next 20 years. That's my niche, and those are the people that I really know I'm qualified to help. And I think it's really like you did. You don't want to do the whole marketing stack. When you are independent, you don't have to do everything. I don't need to capture the entire market, right? I only need a little sliver. Even in an industry that's burgeoning, every month I'm still trying to make sure I can pay my rent and pay the people who are doing business for me and, feed my dogs. That I
You're
have a
still doing business development because there is a point
yeah,
where
yeah,
you've taught all the people you already know, so you do have to go after people when they have to learn about you anew.
absolutely,
Those people who
absolutely.
don't know who you are that should know who you are.
Exactly, and then the sales cycle is so weird. Today, I got a random LinkedIn message from somebody who had taken my boot camp 12 months ago. Not even taking the boot camp, I offered a few free classes at Chief and said, "I took your classes in March a year ago. I really enjoyed them. I'd love to talk to you about coming into our company and doing work." Out of the blue. That happens more often than not, and you've really gotta stick with it, and especially at those moments when you are ready to give up. If you can get through those hard parts, what's on the other side is awesome.
That's amazing. That's called the dip. I think Seth Godin calls it the dip.
Exactly.
This last summer, I started an Etsy shop. It was an utter failure. My heart was in the right place. I went really far with it. I took a course, which just took me totally in the wrong direction because it was not at all the quality or the brand or the idea that I had in the first place. It became too much, just shut it down and accepted failure. I realized it was still somewhat adjacent to the real thing, which is that I'm a writer and a
Yeah.
communicator. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the right thing. And in my last interview, I interviewed Anna Holmes, who started Jezebel. She was talking about an article that she submitted, and she was nervous about her editor getting back to her and
Yeah.
that she was afraid it was going to get rejected because it was a really personal story.
Yep.
Those are the things you absolutely need to do. You cannot not do it because it'll come back around and tap on your shoulder and say, you can't forget, you're a writer or you're a this or you're whatever you are, that means so much to you. And it sounds
Yep.
like from everything you're saying, you are combining both this psychological leadership that people need to feel comfortable with a
Yep.
tangible skill. And the missing in a lot of people's courses and coaching and masterminds is actually coming away with knowing something more than you
Yeah.
knew before. I've been doing this myself. I've learned so much in the last 3 months because I'm just getting in there and doing it, working with some people, but also just making myself more educated on it and know what's out there. That's so fun once you know what you care about. You get into that zone where you're like, "Okay, more
Yeah,
of
well, and
this."
I had been honestly, I was really surprised because I never knew that I would love teaching so much. I think that in some ways, the reason why people come to me versus going to the many other people, many other qualified people they could go to, is because I think I'm a good teacher. I know that I have a way, and I think a lot of this comes from having been in technical fields for a long time and having to communicate technical things to lay people. I am not afraid of saying I don't know. The technology changes so fast. There will be days I open up the applications I'm supposed to be teaching that day, and something won't be there anymore. Oops, doesn't make me look stupid. Yeah, I don't have to know everything. And they think that I appreciate that. And I think maybe that gets to your podcast and real people. People just appreciate when you say what you know and you say what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That anxiety of trying to be perfect is
Yeah.
real. It doesn't completely go away, especially if you are a perfectionist or you have a vision. It's a cliche, but learning how to be vulnerable, it's a fun project to work on that. So just two big things. What are your favorite applications other than ChatGPT that you think people should take a look at that are like the most pioneering, creative, would apply to anybody in their work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you don't have a Canva Plus account, I would definitely upgrade because it's so worth it, not only to get the graphic design tools, but also to get the AI applications.
Worth
I
it.
will often take images that I've done in Midjourney or Dall-E or any of the other image applications and edit them in Canva.
Dall-E or Midjourney, which one would you use?
So if you are using ChatGPT, if you have a Plus account, you will get Dall-E automatically. You pay $20 and you get both applications in one. Midjourney, I have used for a long time, and I like it because of the control it gives me as an artist. And I shouldn't say control, actually. It's just so inventive, and I get things that I never expected, and I love the delight and surprise of that. And the aesthetics also have really been programmed and fine-tuned in the algorithm, so it's aesthetically a more complete application. Firefly by Adobe is free. For people who are starting out, it is a great application because it's very user-friendly. It has a lot of presets that you can choose on the menu side. So you can pick the style based on pictures that you see that you like. And then you can type in words and apply that style. So it just makes it a little bit more intuitive and again, free. So Dall-E, if you already have ChatGPT, I see video and text to 3D worlds now really taking off. The release of Apple Vision Pro, we're going to see a wealth of technologies that move us from 2 dimensions into 3 dimensions. And already we're starting to see people who are taking that 2 dimensional Midjourney image and now being able to turn it into a 3 dimensional sculpture that you can move around with your hand in virtual reality.
Well, that's a pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty hefty price tag, but I talk about what I call the deed of trust, which is that if you aren't paying a hefty price tag with your credit card, you are paying with your eyeballs and with your data and with exploitation of people. Okay. So my reckoning call to everybody is you don't get all of those things. We can't get things for free. Like it takes a lot of money to invest in the R&D. So I think the Apple Vision Pro that has been released is really for people who are enthusiasts and who are going to be helping in the development of applications. So this is an industry product. It's not necessarily a consumer product. You can walk into an Apple store and try one out. You don't need to buy it. And then there will be versions of theirs and others that will come down to a more reasonable price point. I think a lot of the backlash we're seeing against AI actually has nothing to do with AI. It has everything to do with the fact that people feel they don't have trust
They've been
in companies
exploited.
anymore. They've been exploited. And then there's like a whole level of exploitation of labor in order to get to this stage, and mostly with people who are working outside of the US who are unrepresented. So somewhere there's a price. Which price do you want to pay? Do you want to pay with money or do you want to pay with your data? because the economy, and at least in our society of capitalism, it doesn't work both ways. So I think, we have to come to a reckoning of what are we willing to trade? What's our currency gonna
So
be?
now that data is restricted, we're paying with money.
We're paying with money. Companies like Microsoft, they're not selling you AI, they're selling you trust. Their product is subpar to what you can get with ChatGPT, but a lot of people will go with them because they believe that their data will be secure and they will pay a hefty price tag, right?
What is the technology that does text to 3D? That's not.
There are a number of different out there. I don't know that there's anything that's like consumer ready.
Mm.
There's like a lot of betas. You can
But that's what's
um,
exciting you, the next
That's what
frontier.
is exciting me. I like to see what's coming out of the universities, what's coming out of research labs. Usually people release these things in white papers that are accessible and you can read
But you
them.
can search text to 3D and learn about what's going on in that
Exactly.
frontier. Okay.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that sounds like a pretty comprehensive list of things that are here now and then what's coming down the pike. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
In terms of consumers, it's video. I mean, the ability to make an animation, a video with images is where we were 18 months ago, 2 years ago with image generators. Now we're there with video. So we're at the very beginning of video applications. My favorite one is Runway. There's another one that's a female-owned company called Pika, and probably a host of others. That is really, really fun to play with. You literally just type in words or you upload an image, and then you have a place to start from. This is going to be accessible to everybody, and it's going to get better and better. So the quality of the videos now is like very much where the quality was when I first started using Midjourney. Again, it was like, people didn't have fingers and you actually couldn't even do faces. All the images of people were all turned so you saw their backs only. We will grow accustomed to the fact that there are multiple versions of reality. There have been deep fakes for years now. It's just more accessible for people to make them themselves. Our understanding of what's real, what we can trust, will change and evolve. We will be a little bit more skeptical of what we see.
I think we need that kind of skepticism and return to original thought. I think it's really easy to get caught up in groupthink. People have become less able to think for themselves, being like, well, what do I actually think? That's something that we have to do consciously, that with this mindfulness movement or taking time to just be in your body or in your thoughts. We need these things. People forget to just be who they are and think what they think. I think it's interesting to acknowledge that we're both 50. Your core client base is 50 and or
Yep.
over 50. So what, anything that you want to add about like this time in your life, that any sort of insight or like anything you're excited about?
I love Chip Conley. He really has a wonderful outlook for people who are transitioning into later stages of their lives. I read that you extend your life by 7 years by being optimistic about the future. So I think that's important. And I have seen this in both of my parents who are, thankfully still alive. My father is 83 and my mom is 80 something. They both have an enthusiasm for life that went well beyond kind of typical career years. My father trades stock options at the age of 83 and he has had a stroke. And I really think that this has kept him alive. He's still actively curious about life. My mom is always knit and done crafty things. She continues to do that and volunteer and cook, whether it's for making money or not. I don't see a very hard line between hobbies and work you do that you get paid for. As you get older, you want to try and migrate yourself to doing more things that you love.
My grandmother just died. She was 104.
Wow.
And she always said the past is the past. And she
Mhm.
always looked forward. She enjoyed the life of her mind all the way up until 104. And I think then she just sort of called it quits. That was enough. It's about finding what interests you and accepting the fact that you're in a different phase.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, my interest went from, I was really interested in fashion when I was younger. And then I started to become interested in design in my home and
Yeah.
became more domestic and just accepting that and saying, "Oh, wait, I'm just shifting." And that's kind of being curious about your own shifts.
I
Is
think absolutely. And I've just stopped letting people tell me that I can't do something because I don't have experience. Because You only do something and get experience by getting experience. I still have lots of things that I want to do. I want to write a musical. I started writing over the pandemic. I have never written a musical, but nobody is going to tell me that I can't do that because I don't have experience, right? I am going to get the experience that I need in order to like complete what I want to do. And I know that I have like 50 years to do this. I just
See,
think,
the fact that you want to write a musical means you have to write a musical because it's something, the
yeah,
muse or, I'm not a very religious person, but that I don't want to write a musical. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's come
yeah.
to you. Even that is so significant that that's something you want to do. It's not because everyone's writing musicals that you're being swayed. This is something
Yeah,
that
I have
is
something to
your
say. I have
destiny.
a story to tell. I have a story to tell, and I want to tell it in a musical form. And I've always loved Broadway. And so, I may not end up on Broadway, but that is not going to stop me from trying.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
every morning, remember what it was like to be 5 or 10 or 15. Just because your body is not functioning the way that it used to, your mind can still be a kid. And
There's science that after 50, you actually gained levels of intelligence and more clarity and
I think you just I mean, wisdom wisdom cannot be underestimated. A lot of people who start their own businesses are over 40. People who are successful entrepreneurs, not the companies that come and go. And it's because life experience does matter. Life experience, not necessarily industry experience or specific job experience, but just experience living. I just think 50 for me was like, hello, I got another 50 years to go. How am I going to make the most of this?
yeah. Oh my God. Well, this has been an amazing interview. It's just been a delight to talk to you. I'm going to add in the show notes links to the stuff that you do, and I'm so happy to be able to share it and bring AI into the conversation in a positive way for creative people.
Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.